meet strangers every day. Most of them mean us no harm, but one of them held a knife to my throat. At work, online, walking down the street. Most people are exactly what they seem. Ordinary people living ordinary lives. But sometimes they're not. Sometimes the person you just met is hiding something dark, something dangerous. And by the time you realize it, it might already be too late. Tonight, I have 3 true stories from people who trusted the wrong stranger and barely lived to tell about it. He had a knife to my throat, and somehow my scars saved my life. I'm not proud of what I'm about to tell you, but I think people need to hear it. Maybe it'll stop someone from making the same mistakes I did. When this happened, I was 17. I'm 18 now. I was on a bunch of apps trying to make friends because I'm autistic and I've always struggled with social stuff in real life. I'm also asexual, which I made clear in my bio. I wasn't looking for anything romantic, just someone to hang out with. That's when I met him. He lived about an hour away. We started talking and he seemed cool. We had a lot in common. He said he'd be down to hang out and smoke sometime. I know. I was naive, but at the time it felt harmless. We made plans. I waited outside my house for him. He pulled up, handed me a wine cooler, and we talked for a while. Deep conversations. The kind where you feel like you've known someone forever. For a moment I thought I'd actually made a real friend. Then it got cold. I told him I should probably head back inside. He agreed and started walking me toward my window. I was stumbling a little, couldn't see straight. I'd had too much. When we got to my driveway, he asked for a hug. I thought it was kind of sweet, so I gave him one. The next thing I knew, he was behind me. And there was a knife pressed against my throat. At first, I tried to fight, pulled away, kicked, struggled. But every time I moved, the blade pressed harder. I felt a sharp sting on my thumb. Blood. I stopped fighting. In that moment, I was sure I was going to die. I thought about how I'd become just another true crime story, another girl who trusted the wrong person, so I did the only thing I could think of. I listened. I stopped resisting, stopped screaming. I just went still, hoping that if I cooperated, maybe he'd let me go. And then I saw something. Scars on his thighs, fresh ones. I don't know how I managed to think clearly in that moment. My brain was screaming, my body was shaking, but somehow the words came out. I see your scars. He froze. You're just like me, I said. You're hurting, but this isn't going to stop the pain. It'll only make it worse. Silence. The knife stayed at my throat. I could feel his breath on my neck. My heart was pounding so loud I thought he could hear it, and then he let go. He stepped back, lowered the knife. He made me promise to meet him again. I said yes. I would have said anything to get out of that driveway alive. The moment I was inside, I locked the door, blocked him on everything, kept his messages saved in case I ever found the courage to go to the police. I never met him again. I never will. What terrifies me most isn't the knife. It isn't even how close I came to dying. It's how much we had in common. The conversations we had, they felt real. The connection felt genuine, and I'll never know how much of that was a lie. Predators don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like friends. She watched me sleep, every night, for weeks. My name is Jules. In 2022, I was a business school student from France. My English needed work, so I decided to take a gap year and move to Toronto, Canada, for intensive language courses. The costs were high, so I found a shared apartment with other students, 3 bedrooms. When I arrived, one room was still vacant, waiting for a new tenant. My roommate Sandro was great. Swiss German, almost 2 meters tall, 120 kilos, but incredibly friendly. We became close quickly. A few weeks later, Sandro told me he was leaving for a week-long road trip through Canada's national parks. He left early on a Saturday morning. I was told the new student would arrive that same day. Around 3 p.m. I waited. 3 p.m. came and went. Then 4, then 8, then 10. Nobody showed up. I grabbed something to eat, watched a show. Eventually, I decided to just go to bed. Around midnight, I woke up to knocking. Someone was entering the apartment. I heard an unfamiliar voice. Must be the new student, I thought. I was too tired to get up. I just lay there, half asleep, and drifted off again. A few minutes later, there was a knock on my bedroom door, then another. About 10 minutes after that, thinking something might be wrong, I got up. Standing in the doorway was a young Japanese woman, maybe 25 years old. She seemed nervous but friendly enough. I explained a few things about the apartment. We exchanged Instagram handles. Then we went to our separate rooms. Over the next few days, she constantly found reasons to stay close, asking me to help her with buses and subways, messaging me whenever I got home, and turning small questions into long, uncomfortable conversations. The atmosphere grew tense. One evening, I was lying on my bed. I glanced toward the shared balcony outside my window. She was standing there, leaning against the railing, staring at me. When she realized I'd noticed, she quickly turned and went back to her room. I tried to brush it off. Coincidence. Maybe she was just getting some air. But later that night, just as I was falling asleep, I looked out the window again. She was still there, watching me. Our eyes met for a moment. Then she disappeared. This pattern continued for several nights. Every evening I would catch her on the balcony, staring. And every time she realized I'd seen her, she would vanish, and every night I slept a little less. Then came the night before my departure. I had to wake up early. Left my room at 5:30 a.m. The apartment was silent, dark, except for a faint glow from under the bathroom door. I went in to brush my teeth. I heard soft footsteps behind me. She emerged from her room, moving silently across the floor. Instead of turning back, she opened the bathroom door and stepped inside. She sat down on the closed toilet and just stared at me, motionless, expression blank, eyes wide. I didn't know what to do. The silence stretched out, oppressive, suffocating. Finally, I mustered the courage to leave. I closed the door behind me, went back to my room. That night, I saw her through the window again, staring inside. I looked away, hoped she would leave. At 3 a.m., I woke from a nightmare. I turned my head toward the window. She was still there. This time she didn't vanish. She just stood there, motionless, like a statue, her eyes fixed on me. Then suddenly she turned and ran inside. My heart raced. I rushed to lock my bedroom door. Moments later I heard her trying the handle, gently at first, then more forcefully. I held my breath, stayed silent, didn't move. Eventually, everything went still. By morning, I was ready to leave for France. She was gone. I never saw her again. To this day, I don't know what her intentions were. Maybe she was just fascinated by me. Maybe it was something else. But I know what I heard at 3 a.m., someone trying to get into my room. and I know I'll never forget those eyes, watching me through the glass. He was 50 feet behind us. Then he started running. In August 2020, I had just moved to a small rural town in California to live with my aunt and uncle. And when I say small, I mean you could drive across the entire town in 5 minutes. My best friend Haley and I were both teenagers at the time. She was 17, I was 18. We liked to hang out at this place that people called a park, but it was really just a small grass clearing surrounded by woods, with a dirt trail running along a river. I'd been there plenty of times before, never had any problems, never saw anything suspicious. That day started like any other. Haley and I were just sitting in the clearing, talking, relaxing. Eventually we decided to take a walk down the trail and enjoy the scenery. We'd been walking for about 5 minutes when I started to feel it, that tension in your shoulders, that prickling at the back of your neck, the feeling that someone is watching you. I looked behind us. There was a man on the trail. Granted, it wasn't unusual to see people walking or jogging on this path. It ran right along a gated community. I told Haley about the man, but she brushed it off, said I was probably just being anxious. Maybe she was right. I do tend to be hyper-aware sometimes, but something about him felt wrong. We kept walking. I kept glancing back. The man was maybe 50 feet behind us, middle-aged, dark hair, walking at a steady pace. Then he started moving faster. His casual walk became a speed walk. I turned around completely, walking backwards, trying to communicate that I was aware of his presence. He moved to the side of the trail, looked like he was about to walk down toward the river. I felt stupid for being so paranoid. Turned back around. One more glance, just to be sure. He was sprinting, full speed, charging straight at us. I grabbed Haley's sleeve with one hand and pulled out my pocket knife with the other. I don't remember what I said, but we started running. I had never been far down this trail. I had no idea where it led. And the man was blocking the way back to the clearing. His footsteps grew louder behind us, closer. I let go of Haley's sleeve and pulled out my phone, called my uncle while still running, told him we were being followed on the trail. But I couldn't give him an exact location. I didn't know where we were. He told me to stay on the phone, make as much noise as possible so he could find us. I screamed. The loudest, shrillest scream I could manage. We kept running. Finally, we reached the end of the trail. An old metal fence, some trees, and the back corner of the outer wall of the gated community. It was our only option. I yelled at Haley to climb, boosted her up so she could use a tree and the ledge to get over the wall. I threw my phone and knife over. Then I scrambled up myself. I landed face first on a neatly trimmed patch of grass inside the community. A man was walking his dog nearby. He looked startled, 2 panicked teenagers, one holding a knife. But he realized we were in trouble, rushed over to help. While Haley explained, I got back on my phone with my uncle. Not even a minute later, we heard him shouting from the trail. He'd driven his car through the park and up to the entrance as fast as possible. He was yelling threats at the man who had chased us, making it clear he had a firearm. He hadn't seen anyone on his way in. The man with the dog led us to a small access gate, unlocked it. My uncle was there waiting. We drove home in silence. I never went back to that trail. We never figured out who the man was. But I know what I saw when I turned around. A stranger, running at full speed, coming for us. And I know that if we'd been a few seconds slower, this story would have ended very differently.